Welcome. Thank you for joining us for this post-roundtable interview with Dr. Patrick Dixon, futurist, author of 17 books, and guaranteed to be one of the top 20 most influential thinkers in business today. Dr. Dixon, thank you for joining us today. I wonder if you could say a bit more about institutional blindness. Is this something unique to pharma, or is it something we see in all industries?
It's not, unfortunately. It's absolute classic. Institutional blindness, I see it absolutely everywhere. I'll give you a small example. Someone can go into a Michelin star restaurant, and the number of people, I'm sure you've had it, Tim. Haven't you had the experience of being in a first class restaurant, but you just can't get the waiter's attention? Crazy. How much does it take to train a waiter to use their eyes? I mean, why do waiters spend their time inspecting the carpet on the ground? I mean, when they should just look around and look at me. And because the moment you look at them, you can communicate with them over 20 meters, can't you? So tiny things. How is it that a Michelin star restaurant can lose £20,000 every 6 months and not train its waiters to use their eyes? Crazy. Institutional blindness. And I could give you hundreds of examples of this phenomenon in every single industry. And so what I'd say is, let's open our eyes, try and understand what the world is really like. That means getting out, refreshing our teams, bringing in people who don't have the same background or specialty as yourself, clutter things up, and make sure you've got some agitators around the place to challenge and provoke.
That's a great practical tip. Thank you so much, because so many leaders come to us and say, how do I create an environment in which innovation can really flourish? And what essentially you're saying is bring somebody into your team who isn't like you, maybe has different experiences to you, so they can tell you what they see and bring that disruption, those fresh eyes, to help you see your reality differently to the way that you do.
But it is quite striking. First thing I do, I go into a conference or a room and I say, okay, put up your hands. Who's been here in the company for more than 3 years? And you see this forest going up and say, oh, well done, congratulations. 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, 25, 30. Isn't that amazing? All this collective experience. And I start telling my blindness stories and they're rolling around with embarrassment because they realize it's true. But actually, we could take anyone from, let's say, and that's, by the way, the reason why people like Five&Co work. Why is that? Because we bring oxygen into teams that have grown stale. And you don't have to be a genius to do that, funnily enough. I know they pay us good money to do it, but you just need common sense, courage, and the ability to smile. So people start to talk, and as you bring that in, you find that oxygen starts to flow. All kinds of things start jumping up, and you crack your way through all kinds of problems in no time at all.
So what we know from working with pharma, obviously, it's a highly regulated industry, and at the moment, very interested in being patient-centric. Now, when it comes to marketing, of course, it's very, very complicated. It's complicated ideas, complicated information, and we have to find ways of communicating that to the public. In fact, more than that, we have to make sure that all our processes are more patient-centric and more engaging with the people that are going to be using the products and services that we offer. What advice would you give to leaders out there at the moment looking to be more engaged with the people they serve?
I wish we could exterminate the word marketing from our vocabulary.
Is that right?
I don't think it helps us. In today's world, I'm sick to death of people marketing it to me. And I can tell you the rest of the world is any kind of marketing material that wastes 5 seconds of people's time, they want to kill you. Okay, they lose the will to live. So let's forget marketing.
Okay.
And commit.
Yeah, I see.
To the only messaging we will ever give is messaging that brings information and revelation.
Right.
Things that actually, you ought to be telling your best friends and your family. It's the best thing you've ever heard. And let's only bother to tell people things we really, really believe in passionately.
Yeah.
It's important information and it's vital revelation. And then we don't need to worry about marketing. You know what? When you do that, you find your click-throughs go through the roof. You find that your posts on Twitter go viral. Why? Because it's important information and it's vital revelation. Incredible. And if it comes from an authority source, they say, well, it's coming from Pfizer. It's not coming from some sort of some clickbait journalist or whatever. It's real stuff. It's a genuine research paper. It's an interesting summary. It's very important for my mother to see this. It will go viral. So that's the answer to marketing, I would say. forget it.
That's really helpful. Thank you. And just perhaps one last question for the people watching this today. You're a very successful person. You've been a global influencer for over 30 years and a very successful futurist. After all, you're still in business and have published 17 books on the subject. But for all our leaders watching out there today, what practical advice would you offer them to grow their capacity to not only predict the future, but to survive and thrive in it? What sort of things do you recommend that they do to build their capacity for the world we live in now, where things can change so quickly in just a few seconds?
Okay, as an individual leader, as an individual person, I would say stop watching the TV.
Oh, right. Yeah, great.
And go and buy some old-fashioned things that you physically read. And you probably will physically read them if that's physically in your house. And that may seem like an absolutely unfuturist thing to say, but I would say make sure that you have things coming into your front door. And here's two publications I would suggest, not because I think they are neutral. They've all got biases, but they're interesting and will help keep you up to speed with the whole stream of consciousness. One is The New Scientist. I would say anybody in pharma should be reading The New Scientist from back to back every week. And the other one is The Economist. Those two between them are worth a read. And listen, don't read it. It's like my book. You know, I don't expect people to read my book, The Future of Almost Everything, from cover to cover. There's a headline on every page. Skip. Put them in your toilet, wherever you want. But just make sure that you sample and dip in and out of these things. And then do what you can from time to time to buy a really good quality newspaper. Or certainly make sure you're dipping into a really good quality newspaper on a daily basis. And in the UK, you can make your choice. We've got some fantastic newspapers here. But make sure you actually are reading them from cover to cover, because the trouble is, if we don't, we're simply sampling our own prejudices. And that is the problem, my friend, with looking at things like, let's say, news on the iPhone or Google News or things like that, or Facebook News, which is, unfortunately, I said to you that Google is watching everything you do. And Google knows how many seconds you spent on the last news story and what it was about. And unfortunately, it self-reinforces very powerfully. So that Google will automatically feed you. You may type in something that you think is, cancer stem cell research, but Google knows that you're only looking for a particular type of cancer cell research. In fact, you're looking for research that's critical of a particular study, which suggests that, let's say, stem cells cure people with brain tumors. Okay. Therefore, Google will go on pointing to you negative studies that continue to also add to the argument that stem cells for brain tumors don't work. Right. Google will hide from you the research which shows that actually it does. Why is that? Because Google knows that you're only really interested in the negative stuff. Now, you might think that's bonkers. That is what I'm exaggerating a little bit, but that is what the AI engine is doing. And that is why it's incredibly important that we don't allow the digital stuff to override our communication sources. Otherwise, you really will become institutionally blind, and that's why. So you need to make sure you're reading the same version of The Economist as everybody else is each week. That's very important.
That's fantastic practical advice. Leaders are readers. I think I've heard many times. Dr. Patrick Dixon, futurist, influential thinker and speaker. Thank you very much for your time. We're very grateful.
Pleasure as always, Tim.
Thank you.
Thank you.